So to introduce myself, my name is Sean Connell. I was born and raised in Fall River, Massachusetts. I actually use she, he, and they pronouns as a proud member of the non-binary community. The when and where of how I came out was kind of more of a slow rollout. So as someone who was kind of very feminine in a male-looking body, a lot of people always assumed I was gay and always made that assumption. Towards the end of my senior year of high school, I was like, you know what, I don't want to live in a closet anymore, and I slowly came out to all of my friends, and I finally came out to my mom right after prom. Told her that I was straight too, as everyone else, because she had asked. And I was like, so I am not straight, and we kind of had a moment because she looked at me and she said, was it something I did? And that really it broke me a little bit, because it was like, yeah, Mommy, you loved me too much, and that's why I'm gay now. And she was very progressive, and I didn't think she'd have that reaction, so it was very kind of weird for me to kind of see her in that light, that she still had that stigma that raising a gay son was somehow her fault. And I grew extremely close with her because I was able to come out to her, and she was supportive ever since. So my father, not the greatest person. He left my life when I was around 15, but I never wanted to come out while he was still around because he was very homophobic. He was actually, when I was 6 years old, he was the first person to call me a faggot. So I always had that kind of chip on my shoulder, and at 6, this is long before we even developed sexuality. It was just because my non-binary identities that were developing at that time really kind of superseded any sexuality that I even thought I could have at 6 years old. So he was never going to be a safe place to come out to, which is why I didn't come out really until I was 17, 18, 2 years after he had already left the picture. One of the issues that people don't realize about coming out is it's not a one-time thing. You know, when you come out every time you start a new job. You come out every time you go to a new organization or meet new people. You come out in all sorts of different ways when people start asking you questions. You know, I've been called sir and ma'am right to my face, right? And so even at, drive-thrus, on the phone, all these places that people don't necessarily think about are places where LGBT people have to come out, and we have to do it multiple times to kind of showcase the layers that are within these identities and how they overlap and intersect within ourselves, and how important it is to be able to do that without the stigma we see all the time. There is one bad thing about coming out, and it's kind of a double-edged sword, I would say. And that is that everybody thinks that I need to be a walking LGBT Wikipedia for them. So I get a lot of questions when people are comfortable with me, which I'm good at that. I'm good at making people feel that way, so they very quickly ask me questions that are very personal in nature, around my body parts, around my sex life, around, how I want to dress and all these kind of issues within LGBT questions. And sometimes it gets very frustrating. It can be a lot because on the double-edged sword side, I want to be a resource. I do want to educate people. But on the other side of that, it can be extremely daunting and tiring to constantly feel like I have to explain something that I've done a lifelong journey of exploration with in 4 sound bites with 2 questions that someone asks me randomly. So that's the only trick about being out and being proud, is it kind of does open me up to a lot of those kind of probing questions around LGBTQ issues. I think the best part of being out is my ability to inspire. I think that there is a level of influence that we can have by being out that we sometimes don't even realize that we're having. Best piece of advice I could give to someone coming out is find the support and love in your life that can help you build you up to the place where you're comfortable being you. It's not easy to do in a community where you feel like you are strangled, or you're being, threatened, or you feel unsafe. But there are safe spaces where you can come out, and there are safe people that you can come out to. I I think it's important for people to come out because this is how our movement was able to gain the visibility. A lot of times people didn't care about LGBT issues. Well, I don't know anyone who's LGBT. But once people start to realize that their sons, their daughters, their siblings, their cousins are members of this community and feel that isolated and feel that pain, it will start to change the hearts and minds that will change this world into a much more peaceful and better place, not just for LGBT people, but for everyone who's different.